Okay, so here's a question for you guys. If you lost the ability to make decisions tomorrow, maybe through an illness or an accident or simply old age and dementia, who would control your money or your houses or even your medical treatment? Who would it be? If you think your spouse or your children can automatically step in, well, I'm afraid that you've been misled. Without power of attorney, the people you love most may have no legal authority to act for you. And this same mistake has cost families tens of thousands of pounds, endless stress and years of fighting in court. I'm Cal, a qualified lawyer, and this is my channel where I help simplify and explain the law, and today we're talking about power of attorney. Learn this now and it will save you in the future. There is not a family lawyer that I know who would not recommend people learn about this early. So by the end of this video, you will know very simply what power of attorney actually is and why it matters, what happens if you don't have one, and why, despite what everybody thinks, it is not just for the elderly. I'll also explain how it prevents family feuds, scams and financial abuse. And as always, the simple step-by-step guide on how to quickly and cheaply set one up. And the best part is I'm going to do it all in just under 9 minutes. So let's go. A quick one, guys. Before we begin, I'll never ask you to hit my subscribe button, only that you give me the opportunity to earn it from you with the content that I've made for you. So if at the end of this video you feel like that you've learned something or taken something of value from it, then please feel free to do so. Okay, so what power of attorney actually is then? Well, power of attorney is a legal document, right, that lets you appoint someone you trust, called an attorney, to make decisions on your behalf if you can't do yourself. In the UK, main type that people think about is lasting power of attorney. You may have heard of this, LPA, and there are two versions of this. Property and Financial Affairs LPA. This covers your money and your bills and your bank accounts and your home and your other financial decisions. And then you've got your health and welfare power of attorney. That covers your care and your medical treatment and even your end of life decisions. Now you can make one or you can make both of these. They're both very easy and very simple to make, and they only take effect when needed and can stay in control as long as you have capacity. Simple, right? But here is where the problem is, because if you do not have one in place, your loved ones cannot step in, okay? Even your husband or your wife or your child doesn't automatically have that power in the UK. And that's where a real nightmare can begin. So let's have a look now at what actually happens if you do not have one in place. Let's cut straight to the harsh truth. If you lose capacity, meaning that you can't make your own decisions anymore and you do not have a power of attorney in place, your family will have to apply to the Court of Protection for what's called a deputyship order. And that process is really slow. It often takes like 6 to 12 months before the court even grants you permission. Meanwhile, bills are going unpaid, care fees are mounting, and even your bank accounts can get frozen. It's also very expensive for your family. The application fee alone is currently around £400, plus the solicitor's fees, plus annual supervision fees over the years. It can cost thousands of pounds. Not only that, as you can imagine, it's extremely stressful for your loved ones to have to produce medical evidence, file paperwork, go to the courts, justify their choices to the courts at a time when they're already struggling emotionally. I've seen families who could not access their spouse's savings just in order to pay for their care, or had debt collectors chasing them who ended up arguing bitterly in front of judges about who should be in charge, all because there was not a power of attorney in place. I think I've made my point here already. But look, I know many of you out there watching will be watching this and thinking, oh, I'll deal with this when the time comes for it. I'm young, I've got time, and that would be a fair stance to take. But let me just explain to you why that is not the case and why this is not just for the elderly and for the sick. And this is one of the myths, the biggest myths or misconceptions, and that's it's too early to think about power of attorney. Look, maybe if you're a young single man or woman with no family and next to no assets in your name, then you can make an argument that that's fair enough. But remember, illness and accidents don't care how old you are. A car crash or a sudden brain injury or a rapid degenerative illness can happen at any age. I've seen people in their 30s and their 40s unable to manage their own affairs because they never thought about power of attorney. Think of it like insurance. That's the best way I can describe it. You don't buy car insurance because you expect to crash. You buy it that in the case that if the worst happens, then you're covered, right? Well, power of attorney is exactly the same as that. It's legal protection that you hope you'll never need, but one day it could be the most important document you ever signed, especially when it comes to life, health, medical care decisions relating to you yourself. And it doesn't matter how young you are. If you have family, then you especially need to think about this. Speaking of families, we need to look at fraud and family feud prevention. Here is another reality. Families fight, even good families, when it involves money and decisions on healthcare and grief is all mixed together, then they fight. Mine fight, yours probably fight, and you can't always assume that everyone will be perfectly agreeable when tragedies happen in families without a clear power of attorney. For example, imagine that you can't speak for yourself and one of your children thinks you want to sell the house to pay for care, another one insists that you want to stay put at all costs, and your partner is stuck in the middle of it. Suddenly it is not just a decision about care, it's about money, and it's about inheritance, and it's about control. All those factors come into play between your children, between your family when you're gone, and it can and does cause family feuds. All of it could have been avoided if the parent had just appointed somebody that they trusted and made their wishes clear. Next, number 5, we're going to look at scam protection, another very important benefit of power of attorney. When people think about scams, right, we think of fraudsters targeting the elderly and the vulnerable using fake calls and dodgy doorstep traders, email scams and stuff like that. If someone loses capacity, then they are an even easier target. And this one hits home a little bit with me because I lost my father to dementia around a few years ago now, and he was only 52 years old, and it was so aggressive that we didn't even have time to get power of attorney in place before he was able to send £3,000 to a scammer claiming to need him for a joint business venture. We were too late in our family, and it could have been a lot more, believe me, a lot more, before my mum eventually obtained financial power of attorney over his bank accounts. So remember, without a power of attorney, nobody has the legal right to step in quickly and protect your money. So, like I said, with a property and financial affairs LPA in place, very quick and easy to set up, your attorney, your chosen attorney, can monitor your accounts, block suspicious transactions, and protect you from being drained by fraudsters. Every year you delay, this is a risk. So finally then, now I've given you all the shake up and the doom and the gloom part of the video, which was necessary. Now let's get to the important part of how to quickly and easily set up a power of attorney, okay? And what it costs and which one is best. So in England, Wales, you complete the official forms on the government website, which I've linked below in the description. As I said before, either a property and financial LPA or a health and welfare LPA, or both. You choose your attorneys, you choose the people that you trust. You can name more than one and even set rules for how they make decisions so that you have full control over that. The forms must be signed and witnessed, though. It's all a very official process, and then registered with the Office of the Public Guardian. The registration process usually takes time, often months, so the sooner you start the better. And yes, there is a fee, but only a small fee, which is currently £82 per LPA, but compared to the thousands of pounds in court costs that it could cost your family if you don't have one, it is definitely well worth just paying that fee now, getting it out of the way, and having peace of mind. Now, very important, my practical tip: choose attorneys you truly trust. Talk to them openly about your wishes. Don't just sign the form and forget about it. Make sure that your attorneys fully understand your values and what you'd want if certain things were to change within your family in terms of priorities. If things do change in terms of your family priorities, then do tell your attorneys. Now guys, I hope you've enjoyed and learned something from this video, but I'd love to hear from you on this topic. What have been your experiences with power of attorneys in your family? What questions do you have? Let's get a discussion going down in the comments. And if you ever want someone giving you weekly legal advice on life's most common legal challenges, then you know where to look. You will learn a lot, that is my promise. But remember guys, this is important. This is not specific legal advice. I cannot provide that through YouTube. This is purely educational content. That said, I'll see you in the next video.